All right, today we're going to break down one of the most powerful tools in any consultant's toolkit, value stream mapping. If you're serious about driving real, measurable improvements in your business, this is the framework you need. It's all about learning to see your operations with fresh eyes and systematically hunting down waste. Let's get into it. Just for a second, think about your own company. Where are the delays, the bottlenecks, the steps that just feel unnecessary? Every single business has them. They're like this invisible friction that slows everything down, drives up costs, and honestly just frustrates everyone from your team to your customers. And here's the kicker. This waste is usually hidden in plain sight. So how do we make it visible? So here's our game plan. We'll start with the why, the absolute mandate to eliminate waste. Then we'll introduce the tool for the job, value stream mapping. We're going to walk through the 4-step process, and we'll do a serious deep dive into mapping your current state. After that, it's all about designing the future and maybe most importantly, making sure those improvements actually stick. Let's kick things off with the core principle, the very reason this whole methodology exists. It really all boils down to one relentless mission, the elimination of waste. You know, lean isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. The central idea is incredibly simple. If your customer isn't willing to pay for an activity, then it's waste, full stop. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it that way. This could be anything. Long lead times, product defects, information bottlenecks. When you identify and slash this waste, your process naturally becomes more efficient and way more effective. Okay, so if waste is the enemy, how do you find it? How do you hunt it down? Well, you need a special kind of X-ray vision, a tool designed specifically to pull those hidden inefficiencies out of the shadows. And that tool is value stream mapping. At its heart, VSM is exactly what it sounds like. It's a map, but instead of mapping roads and rivers, it maps the journey that value takes to get to your customer. It traces every single step, both the good and the bad, that a product or service goes through from the very beginning all the way to delivery. It gives you that crucial bird's-eye view of the entire system. To really get what VSM is all about, you have to see that it plays 3 different roles. First, it's a diagnostic tool. It literally draws a picture of your process, making things like bottlenecks impossible to ignore. Second, it's a collaboration tool. It gets everyone from different departments in the same room looking at the same problem, which is huge for getting buy-in. And finally, it's a strategic tool. It lays the groundwork for continuous improvement, what we call Kaizen. Now, VSM isn't some one-and-done activity you do on a Friday afternoon. It's a structured, repeatable process. So let's break down the 4 key steps that turn this tool into a real engine for transformation. This is the core loop right here. First, you have to get a deep, honest understanding of how things work today. That's your current state map. Next, you analyze that map to pinpoint all the waste. Then, you design and implement improvements to create a better process. And finally, you lock in those changes so they last. It's a logical, disciplined cycle. Diagnose, solve, and sustain. Okay, let's zoom in on what is, without a doubt, the most critical part of this whole thing, creating the current state map. Seriously, if you don't get this right, everything else falls apart. This is where you uncover the truth of how work actually gets done. Now, creating an accurate map is not something you do from a conference room with a spreadsheet. You have to go to the Gemba, which is just a fancy way of saying the real place. You go where the work happens. Start by picking one product or service to focus on. Get a team together with people from every single step of the process. Then you literally walk the path from start to finish, watching and documenting everything. Now, here's a pro tip that will save you a world of pain. It is so tempting to try and map every single exception and variation. Don't do it. You'll end up with a map that's a total mess. The best practice is to follow a single unit, one product, one invoice, one customer request, all the way through the system. It keeps everyone focused and makes the map clean and actionable. A map without data is just a bunch of boxes and arrows. It's pretty, but it's useless. What gives VSM its real power are the numbers you collect at each step. You've got to capture metrics like cycle time. Basically, how long does this one task take? You need to know machine uptime and changeover times. And this one's huge. You need to physically count the inventory that's piling up between steps. This is the data that makes the waste tangible. All right, once you have your map and your data, you get to apply the ultimate test to every single step. Is this actually adding value? And there are 3 simple questions you have to ask. 1, is the thing being physically changed in a way the customer actually cares about? 2, Would the customer be happy to write a check for this specific step? And 3, is it done perfectly the first time, every time? If you get a no to any of those, guess what? You've just found waste. So, after you've diagnosed all the problems in your current state, the focus flips to designing the solution. This is where you get to create the vision for a leaner, faster, higher quality process. This is the future state map. You don't just throw the old map away and start with a blank page. The future state is an evolution. You take your current map with all its problems highlighted, and as a team, you start attacking every single non-value added step. You brainstorm. You ask, what if? What if we got rid of this waiting time? How could we combine these 2 steps to reduce handoffs? The whole goal is to design a new flow that attacks the root causes of the waste you found. This quote right here really hits the nail on the head. It's not about making one person or one machine super efficient in isolation. I mean, you could have one machine that runs incredibly fast, but if all it's doing is creating a giant mountain of inventory for the next step, you haven't actually improved the system. The goal is to optimize the entire value stream, the whole flow, from start to finish. Okay, and now we come to a step that is so often overlooked, but it's absolutely crucial: sustaining the gains. Look, creating a brilliant future state map is great, but making it reality and making sure it stays that way, that takes real discipline. You're not done just because you launched the new process. First, you have to prove it worked by tracking your KPIs. Did lead time actually go down? Did quality go up? Then you make it official. Update your procedures and training documents. Train your people, not just on the how, but on the why this new way is better. And finally, leadership has to keep an eye on it, reinforcing the new standards so people don't slip back into old habits. Before we wrap up, I want to clear up something that trips a lot of people up. VSM might look like a regular process map, but it's so much more. A standard process map usually just looks at the steps inside one department. VSM is different. It takes that big picture view, looking at the flow of value across the entire company. It's packed with time-based data, and its goal isn't just to understand the process, but to fundamentally redesign it. So, there you have it. That's the what, the why, and the how of value stream mapping. It's an incredibly effective framework for making waste visible so you can systematically destroy it. The only real question left is, what are you going to do with it? Think about a process in your own organization that's slow or error-prone or just drives customers crazy. That's your starting point. What process will you map first?